I am 100% sure that a certain record will not be broken at these Olympics, nor at the next ones. And look, it's a very old record. It was also set in Paris, but it's been over a century. It was at the 1900 Olympic Games, and I am talking about the record of pigeons killed in the pigeon shooting event. Did this sport really exist in the past? Can we really call it a sport? Either way, it was contested only once, and recorded about 300 pigeons killed. The event was heavily criticized for obvious reasons, and the pigeons were subsequently replaced in the following Olympics by clay pigeons, which were launched into the air to be shot by competitors. But this isn't the only bizarre event that has been part of the Olympics. For example, at the 1906 Athens Games, there was a pistol duel. Yes, you heard it right. Like those Old West ones, where each competitor walks in one direction and has to shoot quickly. But instead of shooting at each other, the participants had to shoot at mannequins. What's the fun in that? Other examples of former Olympic sports include, for instance, the 12-hour bicycle race, obstacle swimming, underwater swimming, rope climbing, and additionally, even tug-of-war. In these cases, also for obvious reasons, the records from the past will never be broken. But there are other sports that are still contested today in the Olympics, and yet have records that many people consider unbeatable. And in this case, I am talking about very traditional events, such as, for example, swimming. And the main reason for this is technology. This might seem like a kind of contradiction. After all, in the end, if technology keeps constantly evolving and advancing, why would it be responsible for a record not being broken?
Hey, Pedro here. This video you are watching was originally in Portuguese, my native language. This is the attempt of our team to translate it to English, and I sincerely hope you enjoy it. Your feedback is extremely important to us. Now, back to the video.
Science and technology have always been allies since the emergence of sports. But when did this happen? It's difficult to pinpoint exactly when humans started practicing sports. For some historians who specialize in the subject, the first human habit that can be considered a kind of sport was hunting. That's because tens of thousands of years ago, humans living in caves needed to hunt to survive. And to decide who exactly would go after the animals, it was common to hold a sort of competition, even to find out who could throw the spear the farthest or with the most force. And here, the science and technology of the time had already become crucial. Even intuitively, hunters had to find the best angle to throw a spear or the best way to sharpen the tip of that same spear to successfully take down prey. And this same logic of intuitively improving techniques applied to all other human sports practices, even when sports became just a form of leisure. This is what happened almost 3,000 years ago, when the Greeks started competing in the ancient Olympics. There were few events practiced in a rudimentary manner, but they served as the seeds for the sports contested to this day. Equestrianism and various races and fights known today had their origins in that era. Over time, as sports evolved and became significantly professionalized, the use of science and technology also advanced, to the point where they are now indispensable in most disciplines. To start, for example, with the most famous sport in the world and the most played here in Brazil: football, or soccer. Let's talk about VAR, also known as Video Assistant Referee. The ability to view and review plays from dozens of angles to check if a foul occurred or if a play was offside, for example, has revolutionized the sport in the last decade. Except when it disallows a goal from your team. Then VAR is rigged. The chip implanted in the ball sends an alert immediately to the referee when it crosses the goal line, eliminating any doubt about whether the ball crossed the line in controversial cases. Similar systems are also used in other sports. This applies to Hawkeye used in volleyball and tennis. This system uses high-speed sensors and cameras to recreate the sports court in a 3D environment and reproduce the ball's trajectory in a digital world. This lets us instantly determine whether the ball bounced inside or outside the lines. Cutting-edge technology is also crucial for detecting possible fraud in sports, especially involving a trend that has been on the rise in recent years. Betting apps. That's where the FDS, the English acronym for Universal Fraud Detection System, comes in. This system cross-references data from over 800,000 sports matches every year, with bets placed on more than 600 specialized websites. An AI monitors all types of atypical movements that deviate from the expected pattern. For example, The system detects that, out of nowhere, hundreds of people from the same place, who had never bet on games of a certain team, suddenly decide to bet a fortune at the same time for a specific player to receive a yellow card in a match. And so this player gets a yellow card in this game. In this case, the system will inform the human operators that there is a suspicion. And these people are investigating if it was just a coincidence or if there really was a fraudulent scheme. But it's not always necessary to resort to advanced artificial intelligence technology to revolutionize sport. Sometimes, old-fashioned natural intelligence and sufficient mathematical knowledge can change the history of a sport. The most famous example of this comes from baseball in the United States. At the beginning of this century, the Oakland Athletics was a modest team, with little money and a precarious structure. They hadn't been champions for a while, and their main players were moving to bigger teams. Then, to change the course of this story, they decided to hire an economist. Paul de Podesta was passionate about statistics, and he implemented a new system for selecting new players. He analyzed thousands of data points and developed a series of calculations to discover exactly which athletes the team should hire to form the ideal squad, even while spending little. The idea was to forget the search for big stars who earned million-dollar salaries and choose lesser-known players, or those at the end of their careers, but who exactly met the statistical criteria stipulated by Paul. The Oakland Athletics won 20 straight games, breaking the record for the most consecutive victories in the competition. At the end of the championship, they lost and did not become champions. But most importantly, they created an innovative performance analysis method. But perhaps the main way that science and technology have contributed to the advancement of sports in recent years has been through the equipment used by athletes. And one of the greatest examples of this happened in swimming. In 2008, during the Beijing Olympics, a brand launched a super technological swimsuit. It had no seams and was made of polyurethane, which is a water-repellent material. And with that, it guaranteed approximately about 5% less drag and 4% more speed in total. It guaranteed and delivered. That is why, during that Olympics, more than 20 world records were broken in swimming. The following year, with other companies imitating the technology, the flood of records was even greater. At the 2009 World Swimming Championships, an impressive 43 new world records were set, many of which still remarkably stand today, 15 years later. This is the case for the men's records in the 50-meter freestyle, 200, 400, 800 meters, as well as men's backstroke, women's butterfly, relays, and so on. All these records were set in 2009 and have not been surpassed yet. At least, not up to the moment I'm recording this video. But then you might wonder, so, has technology stopped advancing? Why haven't these records been broken since 2009? Maybe with even more super, ultra, hyper, mega technological swimsuits? In 2009, the International Swimming Federation considered that this swimsuit was a form of technological doping and banned the use of this type of suit from then on. However, the records that had already been broken until then were not annulled. They still stand and are therefore considered very difficult to beat nowadays. What do you think about this? Should these records achieved with banned materials be annulled? Leave your opinion here in the comments. Besides this example in swimming, a similar case happened in another prestigious sport, the marathon. A few years ago, a footwear brand launched a highly modern shoe called Vaporfly. It is extremely lightweight and has a carbon plate in the sole, which provides an energy return that propels runners forward. And with that, athletes' performance can be up to approximately 4% better. In the case of a marathon race of about 42 kilometers, this can mean almost 4 minutes less in running time. Just like with the maillot, the consequence of this technology could be seen on the podiums. In the year following the model's release, 36 runners won medals in the world's major competitions, and 31 of them were wearing the Vaporfly. And just like in the case of swimming, the technological shoes were the subject of much controversy. An even more advanced version, called AlphaFly, was even banned by the International Athletics Federation. And it was this model that the Kenyan Eliud Kipchoge used when he achieved a historic milestone, becoming the first athlete to complete a marathon in under 2 hours. And now that the model has been banned, we wonder, will anyone be able to surpass this mark and run the 42-kilometer marathon in under 2 hours? The answer is, I really don't know. Only time will tell. After all, humans are known for not recognizing limits and for breaking even the records that always seemed unbeatable. And then another question arises. Will an athlete ever in the future run as fast as humanly possible? In other words, is there a chance that someone could reach a speed that is literally unbeatable? To try to reach this answer, we need to turn our attention to another prestigious event of the Olympics, the 100 meters dash, which is often used as a benchmark to determine who is the fastest human in the world. And it makes sense because it is the shortest outdoor and unobstructed competition of all, contested since the first modern-era Olympic Games in 1896. The world record currently belongs to the man who even has Bolt in his name. It's the remarkable Jamaican Usain Bolt, who in 2009 crossed the 100 meters in 9 seconds and 58 hundredths. Can it get any faster than that? Many scientists strongly believe so, but how much faster is still a mystery. The mathematics professor at the University of Cambridge, John Barrow, bets on at least 9 seconds and 45 hundredths. He says that this mark could be reached more easily, depending, for instance, on the wind direction or even the altitude, which affects air resistance. Physicist Filippo Radici goes further. In a study where he analyzed the relative improvement in athletes' performances since the 19th century, he predicts that a hypothetical limit to be reached by humans in the future could be around 8 seconds and 28 hundredths. And that's just one of the many records that very much challenge athletes at the Olympic Games. There are other records that have remained intact for much longer than the 100 meters dash. This is the case, for example, with the long jump record, which is the longest standing in history. At the 1968 Games in Mexico City, American Bob Beamon jumped a distance of exactly 8 meters and 90 centimeters. To this day, 56 years later, no one has been able to jump farther in the Olympic Games. Among women, a record that is hard to break at an Olympics is the record for the fastest record to be broken at an Olympics. I'll explain. This story took place at the Munich Games in 1972 in the pentathlon, a discipline where athletes needed to throw a shot put, high jump, long jump, run with hurdles, and then run without hurdles. Each of these activities earned points that were added up at the end of the competition. The German Heidi Rosendahl completed the event with a total of 4,791 points, an Olympic record at the time. But just 1 second and 12 hundredths later, the British athlete Mary Peters finished the event with 10 more points, incredibly and remarkably breaking the record that had just been set. And with that, she broke the record for the fastest record ever broken. The fact is that this and all the other records I've brought up so far can be broken in this or any other Olympics. That's what makes the Olympics such a fascinating event. It is a time when the world comes together to witness the human struggle against their own limits. Political, economic, and social differences are all set aside for a moment, and the only thing that matters is the pursuit of glory in sports. Culture and science unite as men and women compete under the spotlight of an entire planet for the chance to immortalize their names in the hall of those heroes who do not know the meaning of the impossible. As for us, who may not have the skill and talent of a great athlete, we indeed have the honor of truly witnessing the history of sports and humanity being written right in front of us. Exactly 100 years ago, when the Games were also held in Paris in 1924, the Olympic motto in Latin was created, which is still used today. Citius, Altius, Fortius, or in English, faster, higher, stronger. Almost like that Daft Punk song. It perfectly defines the relentless human pursuit to overcome all barriers, where the best prevail. But in your opinion, which record might not be broken so quickly? Anything goes, even outside the Olympics. Thank you very much and see you next time.